The Sentinelese and other tribes don't need to be oppressed with religion because doing so will make them more hostile. They understand nature and that's all they need. Madhumala Chattopadhyay is a senior research officer with the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment today. But on January 4th, 1991, she was the first woman anthropologist to establish a friendly contact with the traditionally hostile Sentinelese tribe in the North Sentinel Island in the Andamans, 1,200 kilometers off the coast of the Indian mainland. Nowadays, there is a feeling that this tribe is violent and dangerous. However, the actions of Chattopadhyay prove this is far from the truth. Living in the North Sentinel Island for an estimated 60,000 years, the Sentinelese are among the most genuinely isolated tribes in the world. However, for Madhubala, the only women in the expedition which arrived close to the shores of North Sentinel Island on January 4th, 1991, the experience of establishing contact with the Sentinelese did end in an attack or hostility. Never ever in my 6 years of doing research alone with the tribes of Andamans did any man ever misbehave with me. The tribes might be primitive in their technological achievements, but socially they are far ahead of us. She said to the Bengal publications back in 2015. Madhubala's fascination with the tribes of the Andaman and Nicobar Island began as a 12-year-old when she came across a news clipping at her home in the Shibpur suburb of Kolkata talking about the birth of a child among the nearly extinct Onge tribes. After successfully navigating university studying anthropology, she applied for a PhD fellowship to the Anthropological Survey of India for conducting field research in these remote islands. With very few Indian women in the field, however, there were fears in the committee overseeing Madhubala's application that it may not be safe for her to conduct research in these islands. A solution came when the committee asked Madhubala's mother to sign an undertaking that the ASI would not be liable in the event something unfortunate happened to her during the research. Willing to further her daughter's dream, Madhubala's mother, Pranoti Chattopadhyay, signed the dotted line. For the next 6 years, she conducted research on the tribes of Andamans. As explained in the article, initial attempts at contact with the Sentinelese by ASI in 1970s were met with hostility, not surprise since past attempts were by British colonialists who were brutal and dangerous. Fast forward to January 4th, 1991, the MV Tarmugli dropped its anchor near the southwest part of North Sentinel Island. From there, a crew of 13 were taken on a small boat to the island. As they made their approach, that's when officials and researchers on the boat first sighted the Sentinelese, some of them armed with bows and arrows. The visiting party took the initiative of dropping coconuts in the water. Suddenly, a small group of Sentinelese approached them on a canoe and took the offering. However, it's when a 13-member team came back with a second set of coconuts for the Sentinelese when something remarkable happened. First, the Sentinelese reached the visiting party's boat, touched it, and collected the coconuts directly. Then, a young Sentinelese on the shore had his bow and arrow targeted at the visiting party. As the marksman was about to release, a Sentinelese woman standing nearby and the arrow missed its mark and fell harmlessly in the water. The women had done that on purpose, thus saving the contact party from the severe injury or even death. Seeing a woman in the visiting party, one could poised that the Sentinelese now believed them to be non-threatening. Following the incident, Madhubala got into the water and began handing over coconuts in person. This was history in making, the first peaceful contact between Sentinelese and outsiders triggered by the presence of a woman. The Sentinelese are known to be fiercely protective of their women. Madhubala would subsequently visit again on February 21, and this time her team were received with welcoming arms. However, the government of India stopped such interactions, fearing the spread of an epidemic among the Centralese, a sensible decision at that time, considering that what has happened to another tribe in the Andamans, the Jarawas. The government has since then established a 3-mile no entry zone around these islands. On the recent killing of American missionary John Allen Shaw, Madhubala brings a unique and much needed perspective. The Sentinelese and other tribes don't need to be oppressed with religion because doing so will make them more hostile. They understand the nature and that's all they need. For instance, when Madhubala was with Jarawas, she was traveling one day from the village to another, but they asked her not to go since it was going to rain. This was a bright sunny day, but it did rain within a half hour, such as their understanding of nature. So this was the interesting story of Madhumala Chattopadhyay, was the first woman to make a friendly contact with this isolated island. I just hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please do hit a like button and please do subscribe to my channel, to my videos.